This is Late Night Politics on StarFm, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene.
Good evening, it's a Monday. Welcome to another edition of the Late Night Politics. My name is George Msumba. The past week has been eventful. What with the ZANU-PF provincial structures calling for the ouster of the party's national commissar, Comrade Xavier Kasukuwere. Will he survive? Only time will tell, and I can assure you that will be the topic for an edition of Late Night Politics. Tonight, though, we will look at another eventful happening in local politics. Last week, the MDC-T led by Dr. Morgan Changirai signed 2 MOUs with the National People's Party of Dr. Joyce Mujuru and the Professor Wolfman Ncube-led MDC. What is the significance of these 2 pacts? Is it a game-changing tactic ahead of the 2018 elections, which will see the opposition finally wresting power from ZANU-PF? Is it a case of 0 + 0 = 0, as the ZANU-PF president, Comrade Robert Mugabe, chooses to view grand coalitions in the opposition ranks? To help us unpack the politics of coalitions, I have in the studio 2 bright lights of the National Assembly, ZANU-PF Harare East MP, Comrade Terence Mukupe, and Mabvuku Tafara MP and MDC-T member, Mr. James MARIDADI. Welcome to Late Night Politics.
Thank you for having us, George.
Thank you.
Comrade Mukupe, you have a banking background. Why the entry into politics?
I think it's a call of duty for any Zimbabwean citizen that at some point in time in your life, you have to serve the people. Given the fact that, I'm one of the beneficiaries of the excellent education programs of our President Mugabe, it's only befitting that I would pay homage to the President by also giving back to my community.
Mr. Maridadi, you made your name as a broadcaster with your children's program in the afternoons, which was a hit with listeners of all ages. So it was a surprise to hear that you are a politician. What drew you to politics?
Well, naturally, I'm a politician. But if you look at the situation in the country and how President Mugabe has destroyed this country in the past 37 years that he's been in power, naturally you are inclined to join politics and say, President Mugabe, it's enough. You have destroyed enough. It's time for you to go. So that's what actually inspired me to join politics. It was President Mugabe's misrule. Had President Mugabe not misruled this country, I would probably have remained a broadcaster. Because after broadcasting, I joined banking. I would have remained maybe in the corporate world.
Okay. He has said he was drawn into politics because of the state of the country. As politicians, some will say maybe it's self-serving. It has to do with your personality. It has to do with trying to get ahead in terms of getting business deals, so forth and so forth. How do you view that cynical approach to politics?
It's actually very true for the opposition. I mean, when you look at when we had the wave of the MDC coming into formation, it was really out of all the donor support and all the funds that were coming in. And one of the quickest ways of actually making big money was to either form an NGO or join the MDC. But I can tell, when you're at Parliament and when you're seeing the fatigue that's there on the opposition politicians, it's no longer as rosy as it used to be. The donor funds are not really coming in. So I think probably the paymasters, that's why they're now coming up with this thing that, supporting these individual parties that have failed to unseat the popular party called ZANU-PF for the past 18 years, probably you have to come up with this marriage of inconvenience, which is a 0 + 0. Maybe that's when money will start coming in. As opposed to us in the Revolutionary Party, it's really the principles. We've got principles that drive us. We've got an ideology that drives us. It's very clear if you ask anyone what we stand for as ZANU-PF. You don't have to guess. But when you look at all these fly-by-night parties, you have the Zooms, the Forum parties, the MDC, T, A, B, C, X. I can go on in terms of like the letters of the alphabet. I think it's more of money that drives them.
James, Terence is saying that there's fatigue in opposition ranks, and looking at NERA demonstrations, there's been a very low turnout. And even if you call for rallies, the turnout is not the same as in 2008, for example. Is there fatigue among MDC-T members or in the opposition ranks?
I think what you must realize is that everybody in the country is fatigued. People have have said their say in 2002, because ever since the formation of the MDC, President Mugabe has never beaten MDC leader Morgan Tsvangirai, and the records are there for all to see. In 2008, Morgan Tsvangirai beat President Mugabe by 73%, and President Mugabe himself acknowledged that, because of old age, when you are old, there are things that you say that you must not say, because when you are 93, you behave like a 5-year-old. There are things that you say that you're not supposed to say. So President Mugabe at a rally, he said, look, I was beaten by Morgan Tsvangirai by 73%. But coming to what my colleague Mukupe said about donor money coming, when you tell yourself a lie several times, you begin to believe it yourself. And this is the problem that ZANU-PF has. ZANU-PF believe that they are a revolutionary party. If they are a revolutionary party, why don't they come up with, why don't they allow electoral reforms to be put in place, and we go to an election on a level playing field, and then we see who comes out the winner? Remember the story of the straitjacket, that the president is a straitjacket. You have to have liberation war credentials for you to become president. Those are all machinations of a party that is on the wane. I think it is not a secret that ZANU-PF is the sunset party. And it is not a secret that people join ZANU-PF because they want protection from theft. Who in ZANU-PF is not a thief? Because they only tell you that you are a thief, like in the situation of Xavier Kasukwere. It is only now that they no longer want him that dossiers are coming out that look, he was corrupt in this ministry, and he did this in this ministry. You join ZANU-PF because I would have joined ZANU-PF if I wanted to be corrupted, if I wanted protection. How many people in ZANU-PF have committed crime? How many people in ZANU-PF are committing crimes at parastatals? Committing fraud at parastatals, but they never see, they never go to court. It is because ZANU-PF protects people who steal. We've had more than 15 ministers fired from ZANU-PF, not because of incompetence, not because of corruption, but because they have threatened the center of power. So President Mugabe would never fire anyone for incompetence. In the past, don't tell me that in the past 37 years, there's never been a minister who has been incompetent. He has not fired anyone for incompetence. He fires people because they are threatening the center of power. This nonsense about one center of power, it's really nonsense. It only happens in Zimbabwe and nowhere else in the world. Not even in Mozambique, not even in Malawi, not even in Zambia. It only happens in Mozambique. I mean, now, for the life of me, why would anybody with a brain in his head believe that a 93-year-old, someone who is 93 years today, could stand as the presidential candidate in 2018 when he's 94? The man can hardly walk. The man sleeps. Because at 93, you must be in one of two places. Either you must be in hospital or you must be in an old people's home.
But James, that should be a boon for you in the opposition. And yet still you cannot defeat it.
It's not a boon for us in the opposition. It's for President Mugabe himself. Because President Mugabe has lost elections and he has refused to hand over power. President Mugabe lost an election in 2008 and he went for a runoff, which claims he won by 95%. I mean, he's the only person in the world that I know who goes on a race on his own and he claims to have come first. If you run on your own, how do you come second? He ran on his own in 2009.
So you feel that if President Mugabe is not there, you stand a chance to win?
No. With or without President Mugabe, we have won elections. We won in 2008. President Mugabe was there and he was even younger.
The difference is he's still ruling the country.
He's still ruling the country by fraud because he refused to hand over power.
Okay.
He came through the back door.
Mukupe, before we go to the next point, I will allow you to just respond to Comrade, to Mr. Maridadi.
Comrade is good enough.
Okay. All right.
Honorable Maridadi has got a very fertile mind. Firstly, I just want to address some of the mistruths and the usual propaganda that is putting out. Nobody has denied the fact that in 2008 Morgan Tsvangirai had more votes than President Mugabe. But the fundamental truth is not telling the people is that according to Section 110 of the Electoral Act, it says that if no individual person during a presidential election fails to have more than 50% of the vote, you go to a runoff. So after the runoff, they were beat comprehensively. That's the first thing. So no one has ever denied that he had more votes than President Mugabe, but we won convincingly after the runoff. Because the usual thing was that what you have to point out is that you had the Mjurus of this world. Vachita Boram Sango. So now I'm happy that Wanam Mjuru has come back home where she belongs. That's why we had that situation. And then you find what ended up happening in 2013. Everyone in the country knew the president's age. Everyone knew it. And they voted overwhelmingly for President Mugabe. No one, it was not a secret what his age was. And then the third thing that I want to point out is this whole issue of saying that there's one center of power in ZANU-PF. If you challenge President Mugabe, you go. Morgan Tsvangirai, how many people has he fired for just challenging him? And how many times has he changed the constitution in MDC? You know, you actually find that MDC has become a cult. It's centered on individual. That's why I said earlier on, if you ask me about the ideology of ZANU-PF, I can tell you about what ZANU-PF stands for. Any person in the street, you go and talk to them about what ZANU-PF stands for. They'll tell you Magamba. They'll tell you about the issue of our principle when it comes to the land, when it comes to indigenization. It's very clear what we stand for. But if you take a common person in the street and you ask them what does the MDC stand for, they know what all they stand for is what power. That's not ideology. That's not a principle. So we need to move away from the politics of cults, where we have got Zikwambo. It's not about the whole being, but it's about a certain individual. So Changirai Chikwambo. And I can tell you that the day Changirai dies, that's the end of MDC. So at TD politics, there's Kwambo. That's all I want to put out.
I think this is very interesting. Honorable Mukupe, you could be talking. You actually are talking about ZANU-PF. I'm so happy that people in ZANU-PF like Honorable Mukupe, a banker with a banking background, has such a good brain, because what he's talking about is actually ZANU-PF. That no party Chikwambo. I mean, a 93-year-old who cannot talk. A cult is a party which has had the president for the past 37 years. Asingabviswa anotaura ranzi mai mujuru vaida undibvisa vachicheka hukumusoro vachiti uyu ndimugabe. A whole president who is supposed to run a country who believes in witchcraft yehuku. Inotaurwa nevana vari kuenda kukreshi kuti vana vari kuenda kukreshi kwavataura kutaura kuti mudhara zvamutaura zvina musoro. ZANU-PF, they believe that they stand for the masses. ZANU-PF stands for vanhu vasina mabasa, ma-vendors. ZANU-PF stands for tsvina iri mutown. ZANU-PF stands for ma-war veterans anoenda kunodemonstrata, voendeswa motikari dzinovadira mvura inovava. That's what ZANU-PF stands for. That's what President Mugabe stands for. That's what Grace Mugabe stands for. There are two people in the problem that we have in this country is not corruption. It's not Kasukuere. It's not Undenge. It's not Maimujuru. It's not Morgan Tsvangirai. The problem we have in this country is Mugabe and his wife. If those people go today, I'll tell you, I'll even leave the opposition. But they are the problem. Go and ask everybody. In 1980, when Mugabe came in, parastatals contributed 40% of the country's GDP. Today, there's not a single parastatal which makes a profit because they've been run down by his ministers. Because Mugabe anobelieve kuti akakuita minister of energy, mbudzi inodya ipa yakasungirwa, chenda unoba ikoko. Akakuita minister of transport, chenda unoba kuye Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, when Mugabe came in, Zimbabwe had 13 aeroplanes. Now they have one, which carries ye Mugabe kunobaisa mwana wake muzukuru wake Nomba ku Malaysia. A whole president who takes a Boeing 747 with a sitting capacity of 200 people, anturaka muzukuru kake kasari karwara negwirikwiti kunobaisa Nomba ku Malaysia, and you call yourself a president. Ndicho chikwambo ichocho.
The program is
chikwambo, then I want a new meaning of chikwambo.
The program is Late Night Politics, and tonight we are discussing an MOU which was signed between Dr. Tsvangirai. He signed with the National People's Party of Dr. Joyce Mujuru and the Professor Washman Ncube-led MDC-T. And tonight we're asking, what is the significance of these two pacts? Is it a game-changing tactic ahead of the 2018 elections, which will see the opposition finally wresting power from ZANU-PF? Or is it just a case of 0 + 0 = 0? As the ZANU-PF president, Comrade Robert Mugabe, chooses to view grand coalitions in the opposition ranks. And tonight I'm joined by ZANU-PF Harare East MP, Comrade Terence Mukupe, and Mabvuku Tafara MP, and is also an MDC-T member, Mr. James Maridadi. Comrade Mukupe, ZANU-PF is currently embroiled in internal brawls with energy being channeled towards factional fights. The opposition coming together must raise alarm bells in the ruling party.
Firstly, let me point this out. Amuna mumba musingarwiwi. It's normal. It's healthy. But like what we do not tolerate in the party is dissent and people that do not follow the code and the ethos of ZANU-PF. You know, unlike the opposition parties where members are, break away from the party, kutobuda vega, it's to not zinga ZANU-PF. That's the difference. So you find good, like if you don't toe the line and you don't follow the party constitution and you don't follow the value system of ZANU-PF, the party will throw you away, will kick you out of the party. So for us, it's a cleansing process where you want untoward elements and elements that you don't want in the party. It's very clear if our national PC is not behaving and is not following the party constitution, you know, and vakatanga kufunga kuti is bigger than ZANU-PF, tunoarasha. I think the vice president was clear. It's been normal in terms of ZANU-PF. When you look from 1980 up to now, we've always had all these factional fights. And we always go back to the issue of the constitution. What does the constitution say? And if you are found to be on the wrong side of the constitution, unobuda and ZANU-PF yakafana nepombi. It's long and it's narrow. Unofamba uri mpombi momo. Ukangobuda chete mpombi momo watorashika. So no one is ever bigger than the party.
Comrade Maridadi, the fights in ZANU-PF since 2014, surely there should be an advantage to you as an opposition, but critics are saying the opposition is also sleeping on duty.
I don't know. Someone must define the meaning of sleeping for me to understand what they're talking about. I mean, let me firstly go to the factional fights in ZANU-PF. This is not the ZANU of Herbert Chitepo. This is not the ZANU of Leopold Takawira. It's not the ZANU that was formed by Ndabaningi Stole. This is the ZANU-PF of Grace Mugabe. ZANU-PF constitution today is Grace Mugabe. Either you love her or you're out of the party. That is why everyone goes to pay homage. In mind, why should you love the first lady? You don't get into politics in order to love people. You get into politics because you have a belief system. But in ZANU-PF, unofana kudai ina mind kudai in the first family. Kasukwere believes he lies that he loves you, and during the night he doesn't love you in the first family. Why should Kasukwere love Grace Mugabe and their children? That is not politics. But in the meantime, while they are busy fighting, the economy is dying. That is my worry. The problem with ZANU-PF is that when they fight, the economy dies. He has also been lost. In ZANU-PF, the only person who knows what is happening in ZANU-PF today, they could all say what they want. The only person who knows what is actually happening is Grace. Because even because half the time he's asleep. Half the time he's snoring. So now when the opposition come together to form this grand coalition, they are saying the common enemy to the people. The common enemy to the people is President Mugabe. So what we are trying to do coming up with this grand coalition is even to save Mugabe from himself. That's what we are doing.
I love my first lady. I love my Mugabe with all my heart.
Naturally, yes.
Yes.
I don't expect you to say anything that is
and it's quite interesting, good, like, you know, when you're talking to people from the opposition, all the MDCs, they all concentrate on, they concentrate all their energy on hatred on the president and on hatred on the first family. Zero ideology, zero solutions. And that's why you find good, like, that's why for the past 18 years, they've been singing the same song. Ndosaka mchizonzwa unzi zvinonzi ZANU-PF inoita ngenzou iri kufamba imba dzichingowukura isi tichingoinda tichingotonga. What the people want are solutions. Let's tackle the economy and say kuti issue iriko kueconomy. Why Zimbabwe is not ticking in terms of the economy? It's because we don't have lines of credit. And the reason why we don't have lines of credit is because there's Uncle Sam who's put my sanctions on the country. And that's why we can't get lines of credit. So why don't we come together? Inina maridadi and Washington to not beside my sanctions. Mari uye mnyika. vanhu vavanoda vamaridhadhi ava kuti vaite sei vawane mabasa. But they won't do that because of the issue yekuti there's so much hate for my president, so much hate for my first lady. But hazvina zvazvinobatsira, ruvengo harina zvarunobatsira. Bible rinotaura kuti chikuru rudo. So I would want to have a situation where if the MDC realize good, like if you portray more of love, you might be blessed and you might find yourself becoming into power eventually. But if you are portraying hate, guess what? You will always have a BP, and nothing will come out of it. Let's come up with solutions to fix the country. And not kuramba taketa fixated on Mugabe. Mugabe ndo kutonga. He won in 2018. He is the president. He's the president until 2018. And I got one manifesto yenyu. Chimbochinja itact. Because he ngoramba muchiti mai Mugabe. Wa Mugabe haisi kushanda. It's not working. You saw the results in Mwenezi. Would you say we rigged those results? We had over 18,000 votes. Maspoiled votes angari kuma 900 and opposition ikaita 600 votes. Vana mai Mjuru akatiza election. You saw my elections ekubhikita where my Mjuru was. So those zvinonzwa wa Mugabe dai vanhu vachiterera. So you know the wisdom of that man. Yeah? The wisdom of that man. Kuti achitaura kuti mamwe mazero akaita 10 anongoramba ari 0. So these coalitions is nothing new. Vanhu vanga vagara dziri nhumbu dzanziri dzebhora musango. Hapana zvazvinomutsa izvi. All we're saying is good, what Zimbabweans want, what he was now touching on. How do we make sure that vana vedu get jobs? How do we make sure industry is ticking? How do we make sure that the health system iri kufamba? But when we're addressing all those issues, let's not be partisan. Let's not be biased when we're looking at those issues. But totarisana maziso e Zimbabweans and say, good, let's fix those issues and make sure kuti nyika yedu yabudirira. But kana tichiti kunoku takagara tese and we're thinking kuti tikuda kuti nyika ifambe. But nerweseri vamwe vanhu voenda vachinoti kunana ambassador weBritain, ambassador weAmerica kuti ZANU-PF rambai makatsika musaburitse lines of credit. And knowing fully well kuti no country in Africa, no developing nation can ever be able to move forward if you don't have my lines of credit, if you are not able to cover the gap that you've got on the fiscus. But it's also we've been forced to look internally. And I think so that's why you've come up with Nana Command Agriculture, which has been a success. I thought we'd go to Korokote MARIDADI with hey, Matura Zara Gorerino. Because why Garachichema? I can tell you, I remember wakatombo sumuka parliament vachiti tiri kuisire mari kunze kwenyika tichipana Zambia mari yechibage tisingape mafamers tikateerera kazvavaitaura tikateerera zvese zvitaura navanhu command agriculture iyeyo maturo akuzara. So ndoda twandikorokotedza kuti tiri kugona basa.
Right. I think it is very heartrending to find young people like Honorable Mukupe with such a good brain and is able to articulate things. But the biggest problem that he has is you're trying to put lipstick on a frog. It will still remain a frog. It doesn't really matter what you say about ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF will remain ZANU-PF. It will remain a cult movement and it will remain a personal item of President Mugabe. When they talk about love, what love are they talking about when they are busy demonstrating against each other? Is that what you call love? Love in ZANU-PF equals loving the first family and Grace Mugabe. That is love in their description of love. But let me come to the substantive issues of sanctions and lines of credit. I said earlier that when people tell themselves a lie for a long time, they end up believing in it. Our health sector today is 90% funded from outside. 90% funded from outside. Actually, when the Minister of Finance is putting together the budget, the national budget, per health, you actually put provisions of 90% of the health budget, which comes from outside, from USAID, from Europe, from the United States. That is where muno de ma musna support the United States. People they've etakapera kufane AIDS muno, etakapera kufane TB. It is the support of the United States which has made this health sector work. But ZANU-PF, whatever they touch, they destroy. Look at Esnes. Varukuda kuchemera kutenga ma kids a biometric voter straw, spending 17 million. And yet vanuma hospital amnamshonga.
They are more interested in power. Rekutonga. They are not interested in the people. Let me tell you, in Nina I have said, Kuti, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. Why is it that President Mugabe vakachekwa chigunwe vanofly all the way kuenda kuMalaysia? Why doesn't he go to Paranyatwa hospital? Why does he go to Harare hospital? Because those are the hospitals that he has created and those are the hospitals that he runs. That's where he must go. Ministers vanoenda kuZambia kunachekwa BP. Why don't they go to Mabvuku clinic? Why don't they go to Kwazana clinic? Why do they have to go all the way to Malaysia? And how many Zimbabweans can afford to fly to Malaysia? That is what a leader who has his people at heart thinks about. Now we have universities churning out graduates. My graduates are not university, including my son who has a BSc in economics. Vari kutengesa airtime. Ino nachanzi tikungotonga chingotonga mukagoya achiva chii. Nyaya isi yekutonga mchingotonga. Nyaya is not about leaders. What we need in Africa is leadership, and there's a difference between leadership and leaders. President Mugabe is a ruler. We need people with leadership, and he has not shown leadership ever since 1980. Let me tell you, the reason why we are in this situation is because tinodya mbeu. We took our soldiers in the 90s tikawaendesa ku DRC kunorwa hondo yatisine inayo. And that's where all our foreign currency, we left all our foreign currency there. And the patakabuda ikoko, what did we benefit in terms of the economy? Actually, South Africa was smarter because President Nelson Mandela was the chairperson of SADC. He refused and he said there is no country in SADC with capacity to go to war, including South Africa. Because President Mugabe was the chairperson of organ on Troika on defense and security cooperation. Vakaendesa masoja ku DRC. Zambia refused. Mozambique refused. South Africa refused. Botswana refused. But President Mugabe flew our soldiers 5,000 kilometers away kunorwa hondo. Yatinga understand. Yatsine nayo. And thousands of our young boys came back home in body bags. What did we achieve? What we did in DRC was kuenda ikoko kunokanda mari mu drain. And that's it. And now look at the education sector. President Mugabe is what he calls the presidential scholarship scheme, where he sends millions of dollars into the South African economy. And yet University of Zimbabwe pane toilets asina mvura. And all you need is probably 10,000 kuti toilets by University of Zimbabwe aite mvura. We hear about things that are happening at Midland State University. It's because there is funding. But President Mugabe is happy at the end of every year to line up children vana from underprivileged backgrounds varikuenda ku South Africa kuchikoro, and yet we have universities here. Why doesn't he put that money into local education system? But he exposed the money to South African economy.
Comrade Maridadi, some will say that the way that MDC-T run councils, urban councils, has not painted a rosy picture of the party's corporate government's acumen. With some saying the amount of corruption exhibited in these entities and failure to deliver service is a big red flag, and it's a reflection on how you will run the state.
Let me tell you, councils are not run in isolation. They are part of the global economy of this country. Actually, the constitution says, when Vachinamasa come up with a budget, there must be a certain percentage that goes to run councils. Councils are in this state because government has borrowed money from councils. Councils are in this state because of populist decisions that are made. Take when 2013 elections, what did Chombo do? At the stroke of a pen, akati zvikwere zvese musabhadhare. What did he do with that decision? It requires council. It will take council an entire generation to recover. Because Paka Council MDC-T, it means he deprived the council of, like Harare City Council, of $512 million.
But your councillors, Comrade Maridadi, they went in with nothing, and now they have multiple stands. And yet there's been nothing done in terms of reining in the corruption amongst those councillors. How will you rein in corruption when you are now running the state? That
is what Kasukwere, and I'm glad he has been fired from ZANU-PF. That is the lie that Kasukwere peddled when he was Minister of Local Government. The person who killed council is actually Chombo with 117 stands. which are actually recorded at the High Court in his divorce case. That is the person who killed Council. The person who killed Council is Kasukwere, who constructs a 50-bedroomed house on a piece of land that he did not even pay for. The person who has killed Harare City Council is Kasukwere, who is now being fired from ZANU-PF for selling stands to Pomona, for giving stands to Shadrach Mashaya Mombe kwa Harare South. Those are the people that have killed the councils.
Are your councillors clean?
Our councillors are clean. Our councillors are clean, because if our councillors are not clean, with the Chombo, with Kasukwere, they must have taken one of the councillors to court. Take one of the councillors, arrest one of the councillors on corruption, take him to court, and let the charges stick, and let him go to jail. I mean, none of them has ever been.
Okay, before we move to the next point, you want to respond to this quickly, Comrade Mukupe?
The mark of a great man is a person who, when he's wrong, he admits good, like you're wrong, and you apologize to the people. I think last week there was a councillor from Blawayo who's an MDC-T councillor who was actually arrested, and he had a guilty verdict in court for corruption. In Gweru, the Mtendi Kombai-led council was entirely dissolved because of corruption. Besides the issue of just corruption, just go down per Market Square today, right now. I would want Honorable Maridadi to drive through Market Square. Uone marara aripa Market Square. It's such a basic thing. I mean, surely moda vakasukwere wayene rori kuzotakura marara from an iconic place like the Market Square. Do you know right now, City Council is collecting $12 million. The Harare City Council, $12 million every month. And they're spending $10 million on salaries. Who is approving that? It's the council. Right? And Minister Kasukwere was on point as the local government minister to cut time and salaries. But what were they doing? Busy going out and making sure that they fight everything. Because there's this notion from the opposition, anything that comes from ZANU-PF is bad. So even if a recommendation is put which is good, they'll just oppose it just for the sake of opposing it. This is where I go back to my point here. Sometimes as Zimbabweans, we are our own worst enemies. We have to come together and say politics aside and do what's good for our nation. I mean, the decay in Harare. Harare has been under the control, the MDC, for the past 18 or so years. So they can't tell me for 18 years everything that has gone wrong with the city of Harare that they've been in control of is due to Minister Chombo, is due to Minister Kasukwere. No, bumai kuti murikutadza basa. The last time that city tigged, yanga iri under the able leadership of ZANU-PF. And I remember the current chairman was ZANU-PF, Pangari mayor. Was the last time we had been going around the entire city. Ichakura Marara. Now, kumfakos, kwambu yangu. Marara, I takurwa twice a week in Mfakos. Now, a place like Market Square, which is less than 500 meters from City Hall, they're failing to pick up Marara. And you're saying, Chombo. We should be serious.
Now, let us look at this. City of Harare collects 12 million, and 10 million goes to salaries. And Kasukwere says he talks about 70-30, which is a noble thing. Government collects whatever they collect. 96% goes to salaries. 96%. Of this government, which is led by President Mugabe, with ministers who sit in cabinet, 96% of revenue collected by this government goes to salaries. How for the life of me will City of Harare be able to achieve 30-70? Honorable Mukupe is a banker and he knows what 30-70 is. And I know that's what he advocates for. And that's what I advocate for. And that's what everyone advocates for. But the state of the economy, I feel sorry for Honorable Chinamasa. The state of the economy is such that you cannot achieve it. You cannot achieve it because, like government, there are more than 100,000 ghost workers. You go to Mabvuku today, Achin's is a youth officer. All he does is wake up in the morning and sit there at the ZANU-PF youth, Achin's youth officer. There are more than 100,000 ghost workers who are on government payroll, contributing to this 96% going towards salaries. So my point is that councils do not operate in isolation. Councils operate in this same economy. You cannot expect council to do miracles when the economy is dying. The problem is that, what Honorable Mukupe is saying could be said by somebody who is with the ANC and in South Africa. DA, you've taken over Joburg and you've destroyed it and the economy is ticking. But the economy in Zimbabwe is dead to all intents and purposes. This is a dead economy. The only person who is enjoying this economy, Angari Kasukwere, I'm glad he's been fired, na Grace, na Mugabe Wacho. Those are the only three people who are enjoying this economy. And obviously Chombo Boze has 117 stands, which he took from seat of Harare. Chombo has a stand in the back of beyond Kugwanda, Kuseri Komisike Madzimai Kugwanda. Chombo has a stand there. And this is a minister of local government with 117 stands. And President Mugabe does not say anything wrong with a man who goes to court Mkadzakachiti, Baba 117 my residential and my commercial stands. President Mugabe did not even make a comment. But President Mugabe will make a comment, and he fires Munakadaro. And you expect anything to come out of a president with such kind of a psyche? Sorry, no.
The program is Late Night Politics, and tonight we are discussing coalitions. Last week, the MDC-T led by Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai signed 2 MOUs with the National People's Party of Dr. Joyce Mujuru and the Professor Welshman Ngube-led MDC. Tonight we are unpacking this politics of coalitions, and I have in the studio ZANU-PF Harare East MP, Comrade Terence Mukupe, and Mabvuku Tafara MP, who is also an MDC-T member, Mr. James Maridadi. There are some who believe that Dr. Tsvangirai is surrounded by power mongers who are not happy with the MOU, as it threatens their chances of getting cabinet positions in the event that the coalition wins the 2018 elections. Is there consensus in the rank and file of the party for an eventual coalition? This is just an MOU at the moment, but it will lead to a coalition. Is there consensus within the MDC-T that let's go for a coalition?
The decision to sign the MOU came from what is called the Standing Committee, which is the highest decision-making body in the MDC. President Morgan Tsvangirai would not have signed the MOU if the Standing Committee had not given him the green light. So he signed the MOU because there was a conversation around that topic in the Standing Committee, and they agreed that they would sign the MOU. This is why the MOU is only coming now, and it did not come 2 years or 3 years earlier after the formation of the Joyce Mujuru-led political party. So yes, people talk about power mongers who surround Morgan Tsvangirai, but I don't want to talk about that because I don't have any knowledge of power mongers that surround him. The knowledge that I have is that I sit in the National Council. When you called the National Council, he told us that then the Executive Committee, which is not the Executive Committee but the Standing Committee, had allowed him to go and sign an MOU with Joyce Mujuru and with Welshman Ngube, and he was asking for the endorsement of of us, and we were endorsed, and he went ahead and signed it. He did not wake up one day from his house and went and signed that MOU. It's a collective decision. That is how the MDC is run. It is not kuti munonzi mudi Mugabe mukarega kuti mudi first lady mudi mukadzi watsvangirai saka mukarega kusaina muchati mukavarambidza munochanza mudi mukadzi watsvangirai. Tese tichifuma makuseni tichiti mai Elizabeth Tsvangirai tinokudai nemhuri yenyu tokudai nana Edwin tinokudai. That is not how you run a country. That is how we used to run things during the Stone Age. Time yakazorwa na President Mugabe 1924. That's how things used to be run.
Yeah, I have to applaud Honorable Maridadi. He is trying to really put a brave face, and you should notice how his voice changes when he's talking about MDC. He's like cool, calm, and collected, very low voice, and when it comes to President Mugabe, he gets excited. I like the energy he's got for my president. But like, I want you to just observe something. There's no democracy in the MDC. Tsvangirai vakamuka vari kumba kwavo and summoned people at his house, and at his Godavest house where party business happens. Isuma Unity Accord, when they were signed, sure makanzo yakasainirwa kumba kwa Mugabe ku Blue Roof, and mosaina Unity Accord mamzenda vasipo. Have you seen where all these things are being signed? Have you seen Thokozani Kupe anywhere near that? Because the people of Matebeleland are rejecting this thing and are saying Chinu Tsvangirai. And that's why again I said with you should move away from politics zekuti dziri linked on mudara. Save on one person. So you find kuti Chinu Tsvangirai ichi ane gweta rake Chamisa, who is the one who is said to have crafted this, and I'm really worried kuti it's Chamisa who's crafting this, because I remember him taking over 10 years to come up with this degree, and I'm wondering why they have not really made this thing public kuti chi chawambosaina chaizvo. And I'm sure no one in the party, the whole party, the people at the grassroots do not even know what's in this MOU. No one knows. because isusu patakasaina unity agreement, it was made public. Everyone would know what's in there. We're going to have 2 vice presidents. My president Umachabvaku from the minority party and everything. It was clear. But it's all secrecy. Zvichiitirwa mumba. Shangira akapfeka gown achibuda mubedroom make. Ouya na Chamisa akabata bepa. Osaina. Saka right now I even doubt could even Honorable Maridadi even knows what's in that document. All he knows is good. Just like what is accusing us, I think when we say MDC have been trained to munongo ombera chese chaitwa na Save, because Save is what? He's like the Messiah. he's like the Messiah. Height and those noitika. And no one knows what are the contents of that thing. So Isos we're not even going to lose sleep over that. Because Kwatiri, what are you going to benefit from that? Because clearly Washman Ngube kana ndikamuti ashedzere rally apa, I'm sure could, like, if I call for a rally in my constituency, I'll have more people than Washman Ngube akashedzere national rally. Tendai Biti came into my constituency, a whole president kuzotry kuita a rally in my constituency, yet less than 100 people, and this is the president of a whole party. Manamai Mjuru Nanamai band, they came into my constituency to try and do a rally. Fakata less than 100 people. So can we really call them national leaders? Saka is zero. Hapana ziripo. And I think all that's just happening is good. I can just see the cleverness. He just doesn't want people cannibalizing into his electorate, and also cannibalizing into Maridzi donors. That Maridzi Rambe Pari one. Because mukawanda mari dzinozonesa kudya makawanda.
Yeah, because you see, the whole point of this coalition is not to make ZANU-PF lose sleep. If ZANU-PF are going to lose sleep, then that is their own baby. This grand coalition is meant to serve a purpose, and the purpose is not to make ZANU-PF lose sleep. I really enjoy it. I mean, look, it is good that you have a young person like Honorable Mukupe. When he talks about Morgan Changirai, he throws brick bets with Chino Chasave and so forth, because it's nothing. It's not something that he can say about his party. But he knows exactly. I mean, look, he has a brain, he has a degree, he's a banker. He knows exactly what happens in ZANU-PF. In ZANU-PF today, if Comrade Mukupe is in his sleep, and if he dreams that Mugabe is a bad person, he will go and confess. That's what happens in ZANU-PF, because ZANU-PF is a cult movement. So Kasuku were in bed with his wife. If he dreams achiti ndandiri supposed kuenda kwa president Mugabe ndikanonoka, you wake up and confess to his wife ndanonoka kuenda ndarota ndichinonoka kuenda kunoona amai saka ndikuda kuti ndivafonde ndikumbire regerero. Let me tell you, he talks about the Unity Accord in 1987. The Unity Accord was made possible by sober people like Dr. Joshua Nkomo. Because remember, it is on record. If you read Bukra Dr. Joshua Nkomo, it is on record kuti akati ndakati what's in the name. Both President Mugabe akati no hatuchinja zita tudaramba chinzi ZANU. And Joshua Nkomo akati what's in the name? What I want is for people not to be killed, for people in Matabeleland not to be killed. The people that ZANU-PF killed, that ZANU, not ZANU-PF, ZANU killed between 1982 and 1987 are more than the people that the liberation struggle killed from 1966 when the first shots were fired at Chinhoyi until 1980. The records are there for all to see. 20,000 people died between 1982 and 1987, and 30,000 people died between 1966 and 1980. If you look at the ratio of the people that died, President Mugabe has killed more people as a president of a free country than Smith killed between 1966 and 1980. And you cannot as ZANU glorify the Unity Accord. The Unity Accord was made possible by people like Joshua Nkomo because he was sober, because people at heart. President Mugabe would have gone on with that madness, which he calls a moment of madness. He would have continued with this moment of madness until the cows would come home.
But can you also address the issue of the secrecy of the details of the MOUs, and how will you work out in terms of leadership positions and so forth? Is it clear? Because you have only got a year to go until elections.
Why should ZANU-PF be privy to that MOU?
Not the ZANU-PF, but the general populace,
yes, because
your structures.
Yes, Honorable Mukupe does not know what is contained in that MOU. And is he supposed to know? He is not supposed to know what is contained in that MOU. That MOU was signed between President Morgan Changirai,
in his personal capacity.
Dr. Joyce Mujuru, Professor Washman Ngube, and those that signed the MOU. Those that signed the MOU and the hierarchy of their political parties know exactly what is contained in that MOU. That's why there's no discord. ZANU-PF is now trying to create discord, which does not exist. The discord which they're trying to create does not exist. Look, we are all in Zimbabwe. Events are going to unfold next week. You're going to see a lot of traction around the issue of the MOU, and you're going to see a lot of traction around the issue of going to a unit agreement, and all this is going to happen. And ZANU-PF can live in cloud 9 and think it is 0 + 0 = 0, because that's what Mugabe does. Mugabe says anything silly and people clap hands. 0 + 0 = 0, and people ululate, and they spend the whole year ululating that as if it's going to bring food to people's tables.
Look at the people that are signing the MOUs. BT, power hungry, right? He came out of MDC with his best friend, and within weeks he had also chucked him out, right? PDP is about BT. If BT Agafanase, there's no PDP. Washman Ngube looked for a stooge, right? Because he, in his warped mind, he thought the people of Zimbabwe are not ready for a Ndebele leader, which is not true. And he got an academic, the robotics professor, to come and be the leader of the party. The minute he felt like, okay, he was no longer relevant, chucked him off. But he was the power to the throne. So Oshman Ngubakafa Nas, MDC-M is what? Is gone. Mabvuku, same thing, right? The minute she felt her power was being threatened, chucked away everyone, right? And then Abango stepped aside, formed a new party. Gave it some name.
Are you not talking about ZANU-PF?
Let me.
President Mugabe,
can I be protected?
He's the only president. Okay,
can I be protected?
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
It becomes so painful when.
Can I finish my point?
Because you see,
you will have your chance.
Yes, you will have your chance. Can I finish my point?
Ears also complain when they listen to everything. Ears do not have to listen to be subjected to everything. There are things that you must subject your ears to.
Okay, Comrade Maridadi, give him a chance.
Yeah, but I'm saying there are things that you must subject your ears to, and there are things that you must not subject your ears to.
Can I finish my point?
Like I cannot subject my eyes to pornography because it's people's chance to do what they want to do. This is verbal pornography. That's Honorable Mukupe.
Okay, point noted. But let Comrade Mukupe finish.
Again, the same thing. Mabvuku, right? She had discords with all these people, and she just stepped aside. Abango Chipazita, whatever name she threw, and you know what? The cultish behavior. Ndi Mabvuku, chinu cha Mabvuku. Save same thing. Tendai BT pulled first it was Washman Ngube who pulled the coup, moved out with almost the entire leadership, and he thought kutane manu, but did not realize kuti chinu cha Save. And that's why nothing happened to there was no traction on the ground with Washman Ngube. Tendai BT took off with the entire leadership party. Save akangomira akangoti ndini and everyone akaramba Manasave because it's an individual. So that's why you find kuti this MOU, these are individuals who are signing chinu chao, warugadzira chinu chao, which has got nothing to do with the people. If it had something to do with the people, we are all clear about what my pre-election coalitions are about. There's nothing Chekuita secret about. You should be telling people, Kakutu, we're going to run my elections this way, that way. But it's an issue, you've got power-hungry individuals who are only interested in self-preservation. Zero in terms of ideology, zero in terms of how they're going to bring the country forward. Maxeni Nemaskati, it's all about passing our Mugabe, passing nema comrades, passing nema vendors. You heard Machiti, wa Mugabe basarao ndire kumira nema vendors. Havadi ma vendor. Wakati passing nema nwasingade mabasa. But I thought good MDC when it started, it was a labor movement. They should be championing mabasa. But now Isuzu ZANU-PF were now coming out as being the people who are actually championing the cause of the labor movement.
Comrade Mukupe, when we look at Dr. Mabvuku, you are writing her off, but at the beginning of the discussion you said that she was the one of the powers behind the MDC-T's victory in 2008 with the Boram Sango. And in 2013 she held about 20 rallies nationally, mobilizing voters to vote for ZANU-PF. Are you writing her off as a non-entity, and yet you attribute some of the victory of the MDC-T in 2008 to Dr. Mjuru?
In my short career in politics, what I've learned is that, like, as long as you are in the party structures, you are living on borrowed power. So this notion ekufunga kuti vamukupe, if I call for a rally pakaungana on 5,000, I am powerful. That's when you get it wrong. You should realize that the people belong to the party. It's the party first, and above the party kuna Mugabe, who's the leader, and above Mugabe kuna Mwari. And the Mwari ndo anogadza the leadership. This is biblical. The Bible basically states that all leadership inoiswa na Mwari. So kutonga kwa Mugabe, it's not an issue that it's by accident. It's God who has ordained that. That's biblical. So, but the point I'm bringing out is that, like, when you are in the party system and then you start taking advantage of your position in the party, kututanga kufamba na agenda yako. That's when paunotanga kurasisa vanhu and making it seem as if those kudiwa na Mugabe, those kudiwa na msangano, and you start leading people astray. Party no kurasha. So that's why you find kuti Mjuru wakabuda. That's why you find kuti vakasukuere vapfukirwa nemaprovinces ese kuti no, chikomana ichi ngachimbogara pasi chakuita nyanga chimbotanga kudzidziswa futi ideology from kwekutangira. So it's an issue yekuti we've got an ideology. So now you find kuti Mjuru thought kuti iwo ndo vane vanhu vakamira kavakaenda paside, and you find kuti kana benzi rikutadza kuvavhotera kuma elections. But
Comrade Mukupe, how will you go back to the electorate when you have not delivered the promised jobs? You could also face tough questions from the electorate on who will ask why they should entrust you with the nation's resources when 15 billion diamond revenue disappeared under your watch.
So let me just point this out. You've got aspirations as any political party. Right, we are clear in terms of our vision. I'm happy with, like, you're pointing out, because we spoke about the 2 million jobs. It's clear what we're striving for. As what was the MDC striving for in the last election? Not even anyone knows what is no promise on. Avanda vision. So it's not everything that you aspire for that will become a success. But you should have an explanation to why is it what you tried to do did not work out. And I think that's what we're going to go to the people in terms of the 2 million jobs that we had offered. Why is it didn't work out as we had planned, right? And it's up to the electorate to then accept our explanation. And based on the explanation that didn't happen, then they will decide, the ballot box will decide. And about the issue of 15 billion, I'm getting tired of this 15 billion issue. You should listen to what the president said. The president never said kuti kwakabiwa $15 billion in cash. But what he was talking about is good. There were issues concerning valuations and transfer pricing that we could have lost $15 billion in value. So you find kuti that's why kunozoya machinja. Akuti no, vakutwista manzwi ya president vakutaura kuna $15 billion yakabiwa. If you look at the global market in diamonds, if you look at all the production in diamonds, inoitwa in Africa, waka combine South Africa and us, the diamonds anotengeswa on an annual basis are never more than $3 billion. So how do we end up having a situation uti Zimbabwe in its own yakabirwa $15 billion? Guys, do you know $15 billion?
That's a question that you must ask President Mugabe. Do you know the color of $15 billion? Because he's the one who said it. And when President Mugabe said that, he was in his sober senses, because he says he's a man of wisdom. He had all his faculties. He was in charge of his faculties, and he spoke about the $15 billion. We are only talking about what the president said. He's the head of state, head of government, and commander-in-chief of the defense forces. And that's what he said. And he was not asleep. I mean, so I know he's asleep half the time. But when he spoke about this, he was not asleep.
Research on what transfer pricing is all
about.
That's
what you must tell President Mugabe, not us.
That's what he said.
No.
The thing is, our president is too clever for the ordinary person. And I can tell you, your issue, good president, unlike some presidents, you see, when he speaks, I think people are used to a situation like maybe ozizikisa otanga kutaura like in the language inonzwisisika nevamwe. But he was clear, the president, he was talking about transfer pricing. So I think maybe we need to have a seminar and explain to people what transfer pricing is all about.
Honorable Mukupe, I see the dilemma that you are in. You have two dilemmas here. The first, you have a dilemma of wanting to explain the factional fighting in ZANU-PF and wanting to say why Kasupere has been fired and why there's all these secors in ZANU-PF. That's dilemma number one. The second dilemma is you want to explain the failures of President Mugabe. And those are two huge dilemmas. I would never want to be in your position, because the most difficult thing is to try to explain these two dilemmas. Nobody in his right sense would. And I applaud you for coming here, putting up a brave face and explaining in good English, in good Shona, what you're explaining, because I would never be able to do it. And I salute you for that. Because, as I said earlier, you're trying to put lipstick on a frog and try to make it the beauty queen of Zimbabwe. It will not happen. 2 million jobs was aspirational. But in your manifesto, you said we're going to create 2 million jobs. Of the 2 million jobs, how many have you created? Actually, people have lost jobs in Zimbabwe. And you're talking about vendors. Nobody dislikes vendors, because my sister is a vendor. My wife is a vendor. My son is a vendor. I cannot dislike people that I live with. The problem that I'm having is that President Mugabe has destroyed this economy so much that everyone has become a vendor. We are here sitting in the industrial sites. They mamri muna 1982, soon after independence. They munotasinganzwanane because of noise in the industry. But this place is so quiet. Unotango uri graveyard when you're on this industrial side. But let me go back to the issue of $15 billion. Zimbabwe discovered diamonds in Manicaland. Whether President Mugabe was right or wrong, because I know he's not favored with the best intelligence. That is why at one time he fired Masimbire Mbwachit Akaba, and then 3 weeks later he recanted, because President Mugabe is not favored with the best intelligence. President Mugabe spoke about $15 billion, and that was the basis of my impeachment. Could you have a whole president who says $15 billion has disappeared? And he says $15 has disappeared.
Again,
with a
he
smiling
didn't say
face.
$15 billion disappeared. He spoke about transfer pricing. So let's not keep propagating a lie.
No.
Okay. The 15 billion issue it will be another discussion.
It will discuss for another day.
Another
there's
day.
an
But
issue,
suffice
George,
It's because our
can I
time
put-
is running out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our time is running out. Let's just, whilst we wind up, I know that the succession issue is a no-go area in ZANU-PF.
Say do.
What are your thoughts on openly discussing the succession issue so that it is put to rest once and for all?
Ina president vice president chete no andafai papa who in your right sense does not want to be a president of a country? I want to be a president. Who does not want to be president? But ZANU-PF is not atidi except Grace ndiari kuda
Yes.
chete.
Yeah. I think I came personally in Terence Mukupe. I think I came into politics could eventually want to write a president.
Oh,
but there's
you are the first one. In
let me-
ZANU-PF, would you want to succeed President Mugabe? Would you want to succeed
Can I
President
continue
Mugabe?
with my line, right?
But tell us that you want to succeed President Mugabe.
No, can you tell me to dog succeed as well?
Why
so,
not?
So
Yes,
let
of course,
me
I
explain.
do. I do, yes.
Can
And
I,
this-
can
let
I
me put
point
it on
this out?
record.
Can I point this
I
out?
do.
I would want to be president, right? Any right-thinking
President of which
can I be protected?
of ZANU-PF or of a soccer club? Tell us the truth. President of
Can I be protected?
No.
But
I want him to be
Because it's going to wind up now.
I wind up?
Okay.
As you wind
Right.
up, you also give
I
your
would want to be
rebuttal.
president of this country, right? But there's a way that you have to follow. I think Vice President Mnangagwa was clear in terms of the constitution as ZANU-PF. We go to a Congress. The Congress elects the person who's going to be the candidate of the party. We had our last Congress in 2009. Our next Congress is in 2019. So according to the constitution as ZANU-PF, the candidate at the next election is the person that is president according to the Congress. So according to the last Congress at 2014. Right, the last Congress in 2014. Our candidate for 2018, according to the constitution in ZANU-PF, is President Mugabe. That's our constitution, right? So the next Congress by Neitwa, determine who is going to be the candidate for the next election.
I think
So
the
as-
issue, Comrade
so-
Mukupe, arises because of the age factor of the president to say, okay, at 93, at least let him have somebody who understudies him so that it is clear that somebody takes
the
over.
constitution of ZANU-PF is clear in terms of how we handle the matters of succession. So we followed the constitution. Atingatangeka kuchinja ma rules. Again, I was pointing out yekuti patakaisa Mugabe to be the next candidate earlier 2018 in 2014. Did you not know his age? We knew his age. So why should that be an issue to the MDC? Why should it be an issue to you? Kuachkaka. That's why Mugamba chita Mugabe ngagare pass. Ngagare pass. Wanwachkaka. If it's an advantage to them, could say Mugabe vachembera. If it was an advantage to them, why are they crying about it? They should keep quiet. Kaongo endaka ku election ongo enda. Ongo ti manifesto ongo nyora chinwani pa manifesto. Ongo ti vote for Morgan Tsvangirai because he's younger than Mugabe. wongoita izvozvo manifesto yavo vhoterwa. But they can't do that. They can't do that because hashandi. Because if you look at the empirical evidence on the ground, tiri kuvarowa ma-elections, varowa kubhikita, varowa kwese kwavari. And what's interesting is kuti vari maridhadhi pese pavari kuvhunzwa question, vakavhunzwa zve-MDC zviri kuitika kwavo kuma-MOUs, weye zvoto, hanzi zvoto zvine mazera, havagari mumatare avo. He's just like me ndiri kuZANU-PF. He does not know what's really happening nezvema-MOUs. So you find kuti at the end of the day, everything he's been saying, it's all about attacking First Lady. It's all about attacking Mugabe. But nothing in terms of content yekuti nyika yedu yofamba yenda mberi say. And that's why they will continue losing elections.
Yeah.
And that's why we continue winning elections.
As you also respond, Comrade Maridadi, also address the issue that you are also building a cult around the personality of Dr. Changirai, where it's Save Chete Chete, such slogans. Are you not also perpetuating that idea that... Yes.
Look, I want to talk about this issue that people are scared of President Mugabe and why we are so interested in President Mugabe. The reason why we are interested in President Mugabe and not Washman Ncube and not Mabvuku is because Washman Ncube and Mabvuku are not running this country. President Mugabe is president of this country. And what happens in this, the decisions that President Mugabe makes in his personal capacity and in his capacity as president affect all of us. And that is fact. We are seated in this studio here because President Mugabe is head of state. We are not seated in this studio because of Mabvuku, because of Washman Ncube. That is why when we talk about politics, we always want to talk about the discussion centers around President Mugabe, centers around ZANU-PF. Because ZANU-PF is the ruling party, is it not? That is why we are interested in knowing what is going to come out of the ZANU-PF conference. Because what comes out of the ZANU-PF conference or congress affects this country, because it is ZANU-PF which is running this country. Now, we are talking about this issue of succession. Could even kumba kwangu inini, there's a succession plan. Ukauya kumba kwangu uchikumbira motikari kana ukasvika ndisipo unotaura nemudzimai wangu, ukasvika ine mudzimai wangu tisipo unotaura nefirst born. That's how things happen. But muZANU-PF today, ukaenda kuna Mnangagwa kuti tiudzeiwo kuti anoita president after President Mugabe ndianamba kuti aina handidi.
Because the constitution is clear.
Now,
Congress.
Let me tell you.
Congress, what out Congress could you want to be president?
Now let me tell you. In every country, Kumalawi, Zambia, South Africa, it is known kuti if you go to South Africa today, they will tell you kuti President Jacob Zuma pavari kubva panoya uyu akatadza kuuya uyu panoya uyu panoya uyu.
I want you to answer that. Who's succeeding Changirai?
If you look at the MDC hierarchy,
yes, who's succeeding Changirai?
Kuna Changirai, poeta ma vice president matatu. And one of those
who were appointed unconstitutionally.
Listen,
the two were appointed unconstitutionally
because they
only one was appointed constitutionally. Mukupe, and she's boycotting my announcement.
Mukupe was elected at Congress.
Yes.
And the MDC Constitution gives the president the power to appoint
one
people.
center of power.
It gives he is the president of the party. It gives the president, but because that is the constitution. He's talking about the ZANU-PF constitution because they think he
copies
because they think with ZANU-PF put a one center of power where Grace Mugabe controls everything, where everyone is under the petticoat of Grace Mugabe. It doesn't happen like that in the MDC.
So why is Thokozani Kupe coming to these press conferences?
In the MDC, what is happening in the MDC at the moment is that people have been deployed to various provinces to campaign and to strengthen party structures. So I am deployed in Midlands North. That is where I spend most of my time. Now, I think the issue of who is vice president
done to harvest house.
What was done Kumbako Changirai? You know, Honorable Mukupe, stop perpetuating this lie. You are perpetuating this lie and you could no. Why is Thokozani important when it comes to signing these things? Those things will have been discussed at the standing committee and agreed upon. And these things are discussed at the standing committee. Where Thokozani Kupe is the vice president.
The Ndebeles are being marginalized from
because they think
because
ZANU-PF marginalizes Ndebele. They think we all marginalize Ndebele. We don't. That is why we've
won. Is there on everything we're doing. Thokozani kupari kujambwa.
Mpoko is
How
a
do you have
passenger.
a big document like an MOU.
Can I be protected?
And what vice president
Can I be
the most
protected?
senior vice president zoitwa kumba
Can I be
Thokozani
protected?
unotoita zvekuverenga mapepa
Comrade Mukupe, let's
Can I
protect.
be protected?
Yeah.
Listen, I think there's zvari kutaura kuti tinotya ZANU-PF, they are now so scared of this MOU. People in ZANU-PF are running scared of this MOU because they think kuti now save vajoinana nana MDC-T yajoinana nana mai mujuru nana Tendai Biti hapachina kwekupinda nako. Let me tell you kuti they have every reason to be scared. If I were in ZANU-PF, I would be equally scared. That is why there's all this halabaloo of kudzingana kasukwera sina zvavaita, because they are scared. Because as no ZANU-PF,
but you were saying Kasukwere
Hold on,
is
because we want to quickly wind down.
ZANU-PF, they don't even know what to say to the people. They promised 2 million jobs, which they did not deliver. They promised a better economy, which they did not deliver. Tapinda mu government after 2013 elections, what did they do? They started firing each other. Zimbabwe is the only country in the world and in history which has fired more than 15 ministers in one term of parliament. President Mugabe nearly fired every minister. And that is a source of destabilization of a country, where you have 14, 15 ministers being fired within 2 years. The reason I'm talking about this, if ZANU-PF were not in power, I wouldn't be talking about this. Let me tell you what happens Tendai Biti or a Wolfman Ngube before this MOU would not worry me, because these people are not running the government. I'm worried about what President Mugabe does, because he's running the government, and what he does affects me. That is why I talk about him. It's not that I'm interested. I really like him. I don't like him. Let me tell you, the problem that we have in this country, it's not even Honorable Mukupe.
He does not like him, hate.
It's not even Honorable Mukupe. The problem we have in this country is not Vamnangagwa. It's not Parliament. It's not ZANU-PF. Now we have now realized that the problem at name Zimbabwe, the President Mugabe. The issue of succession. Kuti haitaurwe. In every jurisdiction in every country, you must be able to know kuti succeed the president wedu ndiningi. But we cannot wait for Congress at 2019.
For you,
Constitution
In conclusion, something to say about the coalition to your voters.
I think the coalition. What you are saying about to our voters is that, look, all the political parties have realized could we have one common problem in this country, and the common problem that we have in this country is ZANU-PF misrule. That is the common problem that we have in this country. That is why even Honorable Mukupe is here, is because of ZANU-PF misrule. If ZANU-PF were ruling this country properly, there would be no opposition, there would be no MDC, there would be no Wolfman Ngube, there would be no Morgan Tsvangirai, and we would not be seated here. The reason I'm an MP is because of ZANU-PF misrule. And the reason why Honorable Mukupe is here to defend ZANU-PF is because of ZANU-PF misrule. If ZANU-PF had not misruled this country, Honorable Mukupe would not have been someone there to try and defend ZANU-PF. But look at it. He's here because he has to defend ZANU-PF. And also because of these factional wars. He belongs to another faction, G40. He belongs to G40 as opposed to... He belongs to... sorry, you don't belong to G40. You belong to Lacoste. No, I'm sorry. He belongs to Lacoste. Sorry, my most sincere apologies. I know you don't... G40 and Yanakasukwere. You belong to Lacoste. And my most sincere apologies on that. You belong to Lacoste and not G40. So the problem that we have now is that he has come here and not Chadrick Mashaya Mombe. The reason Chadrick Mashaya Mombe could not come here is because Chadrick Mashaya Mombe do G40. So they send somebody who can defend both ZANU-PF and Lacoste at the expense of G40. They could not send someone who would support ZANU-PF and G40. But you saw the expression on his face, man, the way G40. He was horrified. He's actually, from now, he's going to go back and say, no, MARIDADI, I don't pay G40. No, I'm really sorry. But
your final words
my most sincere apologies for calling him G40.
Okay, Comrade Mukupe, as we wind down. Your final words. Your final words.
And please tell us more about Kasukwere's corruption. Has he finally been fired? Because it will be cause for celebration. Because he was a corrupt man and he was violent. Tell us what finally Lacoste you have succeeded in firing him. Because it will be cause for celebration for everybody.
Okay, final words, Comrade Mukupe.
My final words is that I just want to thank the people of Zimbabwe for continually supporting ZANU-PF, and it's clear that we've got nothing to lose sleep over. the results in Bikita, the results, the most recent elections have actually shown that we're still the most dominant force. And when you see people wakumanya wachita all these coalitions, it means they're running scared, and they are scared of. In his words, yekuti vari kutya munhu who's 93 years old ari kunzi anoita basa rekukotsira. Kana if that was the case yekuti he's 93 achembera anoswera achikotsira, then why are they forming these coalitions? There would be no need for these coalitions. And I'm waiting for them kuti vagadzire manifesto yavo which just says kuti vote for Tsvangirai because he's younger than Mugabe. And toona kuti ndiani anowina my elections, because they seem to be so fixated on the age of our president. The electorate knows that. And the nice thing is, it's the nice thing that they don't realize. We are not a cult in ZANU-PF. At least a cult, we're not fixated on an individual. And that's why you find with ZANU-PF continues winning my elections, because we are not about an individual, but we are about an ideology. It's the ideology which binds us. And that's why you find good like Kwawarika, Chero, even if I had a party, Yema prostitutes, fambi chete, right opindoro to sign a coalition. If I had even party, Ndikagadzira, even if I had a party, if I had party Ngochani dzega yaitouya party Ngochani yotosaina futi. So all I'm saying is kuti this is wind up. So this is a coalition of convenience. But as far as you're concerned,
what's so fun about Ngochani ZANU-PF? President
can I be protected?
No, but
can I be
I
protected?
think we must set the record clear.
That will be for another discussion.
So can I?
That will be for another discussion.
Okay,
Let's wind up on coalitions.
But it must be put on record.
The last thing,
can
I wind up, please? Can I wind up?
on coalitions?
The last thing I just want to point out is that, like, I'm happy that the programs that we've put out as ZANU-PF have been a success. Command Agriculture has been a success. You'll find with Matura Ruzara Nechbagi. And now we're talking of Command Wheat coming in. And we're talking of even going to industry and coming up with Command Agriculture, Command Industry. And I'm happy with, like, even my fiscal incentives, the SI-64 instruments, Makuona ma Zimbabwean products, Akuzara ma shops, the jobs are coming back. So tinongotaura kuti tinotenda kuti vaMugabe uchenjeri wavo uri kushanda, will continue as a party in ZANU-PF, and senzo ucharamba tienda dzimwe imba dzichingoukura.
The program has been Late Night Politics, and tonight we were discussing the politics of coalitions. This follows the signing of 2 MOUs between the National People's Party of Dr. Joyce Mujuru and the MDC-T led by Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai, as well as the Professor Watchman Lungube-led MDC. And tonight, to help me unpack the politics of coalitions, I had in the studio 2 bright lights of the National Assembly, ZANU-PF Harare East MP, Comrade Terence Mukupe, and Mabvuku Tafara MP and MDC-T member, Mr. James Maridadi. Thank you for coming through to the program. It was a heavy discussion.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. I mean, please continue to invite us.
Yes.
All right.
You've been listening to Late Night Politics on StarFm, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene. Join us again next week, Monday, same time on StarFM. Tune in to StarFM every Monday night for Late Night Politics, brought to you by StarFM News and Current Affairs. From 11 p.m. till midnight for riveting, engaging political discussions. Meet Zimbabwe's political players as they square off live on Zimbabwe's leading radio station. Your Monday late nights will never be the same again. Late Night Politics on StarFM, leading the pack and sounding good all the time. You've been listening to Late Night Politics on StarFM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene. Join us again next week, Monday, same time on StarFM.